fear is the pathway. If you're feeling fear or you're feeling imposter syndrome, you're on the right track. Entrepreneurs work 24/7 so they don't have to work 9 to 5. Your team will work much harder for you if you've got a clear purpose in your business. Your team's going to be driven by that. There's no straight lines in business. If you've got a great purpose that's bigger than your ego, that's bigger than your identity, the wind of the economic changes or the product changes or community changes or consumer changes won't bother you because you're still driving forward. We all have a purpose. Don't believe that you don't. It's like your fingerprint. It's something that stirs you up, and pursue it and listen to the market and be persistent.
Hey, sorry to interrupt. I just have a favor to ask before we begin. If you've been enjoying these conversations and want more stories that redefine success, please do us a massive favor and hit the subscribe button over on our YouTube channel. It literally takes 2 seconds to do and is completely free. It's a small gesture, but it makes a massive difference for us as it really helps us to grow the show. And with that, let's get into the episode. All right, welcome back to the Quest for Success podcast, and thanks so much for tuning in once again. Today on the show, I'm really looking forward to this one, and in preparation for today, I always try and write just a one-liner bio for our guests. But today it was actually quite challenging to do because today on the show we're joined by Clive Burcham, and he's just done so many different things in his career. It's hard to really summarize it in one line. But what I got to was serial founder, business leader, speaker, and philanthropist. And so I'm really excited, Clive, to kind of really dive into your story and understand all those different elements of the man we're sitting in front of.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I got to meet Clive once, and then we just caught up for a coffee, and I said to Dylan, we definitely need to get Clive on our podcast, because Clive gone through amazing journey, and exactly that's where we wanted to talk to people like you, just to understand your journey.
Thank you.
It's really, and again, you wrote some articles about success, so which is a great thing. So hopefully, I think we have a subject matter expert sitting here about the success. So thank you, Clive, joining us. It's nice to have you. And
thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here in this environment with you guys.
So Clive, this podcast is all about success, and we need to start there. So
Yep.
I want to ask you, what does success actually mean to you?
Okay, so I think there's multiple levels to that. I think one way that I operate is from principles. So I believe that we all have principles. We're probably not aware of them, and we probably don't live from them in the order in which they should be honored. So for me, it's my spiritual, physical, and emotional health. So am I successful on that level? Yeah. Then underneath that, other people closest to me, my blood family, my brothers and sister family, if you like, and my colleagues, are they thriving? Beneath that, it could be your business or it could be your community. And so those are different markers of success. And I believe there is an order to them, because if you're not physically there's no point having, $1 billion and being fat, right? that's not successful, right? Or being stressed, or being in conflict, or not having a purpose in your life, by not making the people around you feel better about themselves in your presence. So I think success is actually, it's a good podcast name. It's a good inquiry, and there's not one answer.
Yep.
And do you think over your life, do you think that definition has changed a lot?
Oh, yes. So success in my 20s was productivity, creativity, and awards, I think. In my 30s, it was probably wealth and I guess, growth and, a bit of, as Scott Galloway says, a bit of anger kind of driving your success is not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. In my 40s, it was probably, I think my 40s was the most difficult decade of my life. But what success, I probably didn't know what success was then. I think my principles, that's why I have that methodology, was all over the place. Like I was, focused on, charity or an NGO organization, and I wasn't looking after my physical health. Like, so I was a bit all over the place but now I think it's peace.
Yeah.
And helping other people realize their potential and lead rewarding qualities of life. So I think success for me now would be, how do I use the wisdom of my scars to help other people, optimize?
And do you regret your different definitions throughout your journey, or do you think that's a natural part of progression?
Well, the data doesn't lie. I think that is a natural part of progression for some people. But then you meet some people who, like, I believe everything goes back to your purpose. Your purpose is unique to you, like your fingerprint. Sometimes you earn it, like you earn wrinkles. Or some people are blessed by, at 16, of like Hugh Evans, who co-founded Global Citizen, which is a massive global NGO. He knew at 16 that he was going to end extreme poverty in his lifetime, right? So he knew his purpose. Whereas there is a great book called The Second Mountain by a gentleman, forgive me if it's wrong, the name David Brooks, I think. So The Second Mountain talks about how we have career success, something goes wrong, and then we come back. Our second mountain is all about goodness and purpose and making a difference to other people, which is what you're doing, here with your podcast. Yeah. So yes, it changes.
Yeah, 100%. And I suppose, Clive, for us to understand the men who we're sitting down with today, we need to go back to your early childhood. And I know that was, largely spent growing up in the country of WA. Can you take us through your upbringing, and more specifically, how you think your parents and their values shaped who you became?
That's a big question. Well, my grandfather was an entrepreneur. Like, he started with a gun, a horse, and a dog. And he ended up with, significant land holding. Yeah. He was probably the first John Dutton. It's because we had a conversation about being John Dutton before. So he was an inspiration. My father was also a business owner, so I think he was an inspiration. So I think that was embedded in my DNA from those guys. I then believe that, entrepreneurialism and creativity saved my ass, meaning it was my way out, because after my father died when I was 8, I was, I can look back at it now, and I was itching to get out of the environment I was in. I was in a conflict environment with my stepfather and some other quite tragic things that went on in my childhood. So I think I was did that adversity, and my persistence created, as my cap says, a new future that I wouldn't have otherwise done if I hadn't gone through that trauma. And the nature of artists and also entrepreneurs, whether they admit it or not, is most of them, 65% of entrepreneurs have ADHD. 93% of them feel overwhelmed, and all sorts of founder afflictions, which usually stem from DNA and early childhood experiences. So I think that without doubt, my childhood propelled me to where I am today, and I'm only just beginning.
And on that point, do you think entrepreneurship is innate, or can it be trained?
Everyone can be an entrepreneur. And as macro finance and geopolitical temperatures and everything changes, and obviously with technology, we will see hundreds of millions of more entrepreneurs. At the moment, there's roughly 600 million entrepreneurs in the world. I don't know the actual data, but I would assume that in 5 years that's doubled. It's an amazing market, and there are amazing people out there who, some of which I'm, met recently and will work with. My mission is to help millions of entrepreneurs realize their potential. Obviously, I'll use technology to do that. But it is absolutely in all of us. And we will need to, when, jobs become more scarce, we'll have to go off and create things. But if you own the restaurant where we had lunch on Thursday last week, technically a restaurateur is an entrepreneur as well. Like they're doing the hard yards. And I think some of what they go through is very similar to what you would go through if you're running a different organization.
Yeah.
So it's definitely in all of us. It's connected to your purpose.
Yeah.
And pain sometimes informs your purpose.
Yeah.
Often, actually.
So Clive, when did you really start your entrepreneurial journey? Like,
I was 8.
yeah, what were you doing? Take us through.
Easy. So I worked in the local supermarket, stacking shelves and packing boxes for old ladies and carrying them out or even young ladies and carrying them out to their cars. So I'd sit at the end of the checkout, and that was a service that used to be provided, whereas now Woolworths makes you do it all. You got to scan it all. I also worked on the milk runs. The milk guy came around in a van, and I'd jump on the back and run the milk bottles to the front door, take the money, take it back to the milk van. I'd do that for free choc milk. I worked on my grandparents' farm, which was big, as I alluded to before, milking cows, driving tractors, feeding calves, hosing down the manure, as you do as entrepreneurs, out of the yard to make the dairy clean again. I'd get in the milk vat, with Jif and a scrubbing brush and scrub all the residue once a week or a month. And then I had a lawn mowing run in town. So I had the Briggs and Stratton lawnmower and a can of gas, and I'd do $10 front and back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good deal.
And so, as I said, I was on a journey to get out.
Yeah.
So, but I had obviously a mind that was, genetically blessed, but also curious, and nothing's changed.
And I want to understand for you, looking back in retrospect, what do you think, that value of hard work at a young age taught you? Because it sounds like you were doing so much at a young age, and I imagine growing up on a farm, you were working hard.
Where society's screwed up right now is that, we raise children, they go to university, they move out of home, they go and rent somewhere, the parents still maintain the home. So everyone's out there, kind of, you got 3 kids, they've all got different rental burdens, etc. Whereas when I was growing up, the whole family lived we didn't, but a lot of the grandchildren who had families lived on the farm, and they all contributed. So I think that that's a super important thing that we forget is that society is breeding us to go out and pay more rent and mortgages and taxes, and that doesn't make sense. I actually believe I'm trying to do that with my family, and you guys are a brilliant example of this, is we should be sticking together and looking after our own and then going out into the world and building communities and wealth and so forth. So I think that that's the first bit I'd say to that question.
So from your young age entrepreneurship, then you move on to more creative side.
Yes. So as I said, I wanted to get out of home. So I got a job at a local TV station when I was 15 and a half. And I remember the managing director, who was also the newsreader, he said to me, "So Clive, where do you want to be in 3 years' time?" And I was 15 and a half. And I said, "I don't know, but I'm going to be successful." And he gave me the job, and I was a junior burger at the TV station, putting the TV shows on air and following a schedule for the TV commercials. And, it was a very functional, hydraulic job. But I taught myself how to write, produce, and direct. And I made a TV show when I was about 16. And then I was producing, TV promotions and commercials, at 16, 17, 18. Wow. And so creativity and productivity became, the soothing force for, my anxiety and also my entrepreneurialism. I just didn't stop working. And that continued to work at, major TV networks here in Australia. And then I helped launch a TV channel as a creative director. And then I went to New York and did what you do in New York.
So where did you get that creative part?
No idea.
Yeah.
But I remember being on the tractor, and I do this now. Like when I was in the country over Christmas here in Australia, and seeing the hay bales all laid out in the paddock, and I used to drive up and down raking the hay, and my uncle would follow me in a tractor, and he would be baling the hay, and I found that whole experience just beautiful, and it was an organic piece of art in a field. And so I think in all of us there is a sense of creativity. It's just mine got I don't know, opened up quite early.
Yeah. Maybe that natural space gave you a lot of ideas and creativity.
Well, I was watching a video last night, and Tony Robbins said this, and I believe this, is that I'm a religious man. And so, nature is God's creation to me. And I find that when I was in the country, I was more productive and more creative. When I'm in the city here and I'm in an office, like, I'm not creative. Like, I get creative, as we were talking about before, Dylan, like after the 10-second mark of a run, your cortisol is rinsed and optimism comes in. And if you're doing that in bushland, you're in creation, you become creative. So in creation, you are creative without doubt.
Yeah, definitely.
And you mentioned, you started a TV show at 16, you were creative director at 25, you were the youngest producer of the Arias.
Yeah.
Like, I want to know all of these like experiences early on. What were the kind of lessons that you learnt through that journey?
Well, I've written a talk on that. Probably in summation, fear is the pathway, right? If you're feeling fear or you're feeling imposter syndrome, you're on the right track.
Mm-hmm.
In retrospect, I could say that. But like, I remember when they asked me to produce the Arias, I'm like, are you sure? And they were like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, cool. And they were like, we'll help you. And I'm like, okay, cool. And we did it in record time, in half the time, probably with half the budget. And we, broke a whole bunch of records at the time. I was working with a wonderful gentleman called Craig Campbell. But with all those things, I didn't know what the hell I'm doing. And I also still don't know what the hell I'm doing with my, with Compadres, my new entity and creating the technology. I don't know what I'm doing. I want to create a global platform to help entrepreneurs. I know it brings me joy and it brings me passion, but of those two things, it was the same, like creating a TV channel from a creative perspective and working on the TV shows and the branding with all the other TV channels that were involved in that platform and the people. I guess it came down to communication, creativity, productivity, and always willing to, when people were zigging, I was zagging. Always do the opposite.
Yeah.
So I think that's the common thread was.
And was that a realization you came to early? The fact that even these people you look up to, no one really knows what they're doing?
Well, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, and Jeff Bezos, right? So we have a misguided representation of what we think an entrepreneur is. They're not white, weird people that live in America, right? And most of them start with nothing. That's what most entrepreneurs, your father, great story, arrived here with $100 in his pocket and slept on the street and washed dishes, and then he robbed a bank, and
that's it. I didn't say that.
Most entrepreneurs start with zero, and if you don't start with zero, like if you come into a wealthy family, that brings a whole bunch of other things. Like Ray Dalio, the great Ray Dalio, he says, you only learn from your struggles, and his kids aren't getting anything. I'm sure they'll get something, but Simon Squibb, who's an amazing, the UK's number one business influencer, he posted on the weekend, I love my son, but he's getting nothing. Because you learn from your struggles. So that's why I always refer to the wisdom of our scars. Pain is the pathway.
100%. I totally agree. I mean, that's why, Dylan, like everyone said, hey, why not Dylan working in my business? I said, no, he's smart enough.
He is smart enough.
Yeah, he can do his own thing, right? That's the only way we should encourage our kids to, create their own wisdom, right? Rather than, just anchor to someone else. And I mean, that's how I believe it. Like if I can do it, he can do 10 times better.
Yes, and the benefit he has is he has a a great father that has that insight and that wisdom, that generosity to share it. Whereas, if you look at what happened with James Packer and Kerry Packer, I would dare say that, James Packer was not, whilst he was given some tough guidance or whatever, I don't know whether there was that compassionate, empathetic look at things. I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know. Whereas, you're sitting here with your son on a couch talking to, people who've built businesses. Like, he's onboarding a whole bunch of data that most kids would not benefit from. So you are giving him the greatest gift, which is wisdom, right? Not money.
Yeah.
You're a good man.
Thank you.
And I want to go to this transition of when you founded the Conscious
Organization. Yep.
What was it that you were seeing in the industry that made you think, okay, I can do better?
Easy. Well, I always think I can do better, naively, and we all should, right? That's one. There's 4 pathways to purpose, and that's one of them that I see in industry that I think I can do better in. And so that's usually in your 20s or your 30s. So that was mine at the point. So it was really simple. I was used to working in big broadcast networks, etc., where we'd use multi-million-dollar camera setups, etc. This would have been unheard of what we're doing here. Whereas now you can do it all in your iPhone. So it was when Steve Jobs made it possible to plug a Sony Handycam, which cost $1,000, into a $2,000 app and plug it into Final Cut Pro. I was used to using a $250,000 piece of software, dollars per piece of software, whereas this I could do for $5,000. I thought, I'm going to undercut the prices of all the advertising agencies. I'm going to deliver better quality and faster, right? So speed, quality, money. I broke the triangle, right? And so I went after the big holding companies, if you like. I wanted to steal business away from them. And so that would drive prices down and make it better for clients. So it was a win-win-win every way. I'd have fun and get wealthy. The clients, not that they need to get more wealthy, but clients would get a better deal and would disrupt things. And, unbeknownst to me, I then sold my business into one of those holding companies and banged my head against the wall. But I learned a lot and I built a lot of relationships. And to your earlier question, what did I get from all of this? You think that money is, at some point it is, but the 10x in life isn't the multiple on your profit. The 10x in life is the revenue, the relationships. It's definitely the relationships and the experience, because the experience becomes the wisdom, which is what your father, Jan was talking about, is that sharing your wisdom with future generations optimizes the family.
Mm-hmm. And 4 years later from founding that, as you mentioned, you exited for, I think it was a 10x valuation.
Yes. Yeah.
I want to know, what were some of the maybe not so obvious levers that you pulled to create that tremendous growth?
I don't know. Right time. I'm working with other businesses now that are in a similar situation. It's just, it was timing and passion, naivety. Timing, passion, naivety, persistence, insistence, bit of anger, bit of, my business plan was stick it to tradition, invoice more than I spend, and not work with assholes.
I like that philosophy.
Still same.
Yeah.
Still same. But, you get waylaid sometimes. But I think the levers I pulled was that just like I was probably I'm revisiting that now, because I've got a similar drive now for compadres and helping entrepreneurs. Like I've got that, that somebody said actually where we met at that party jam, they said entrepreneurs work 24/7 so they don't have to work 9 to 5. So I think back then and even now I'm like that. And my grandfather would have been like that as well. And I know my father was. And so it was a timing thing with that. And, I think I'd reached a cap after 4 years of intensity, or 3 years actually. I wasn't learning anything. Like, I'd made enough money. I'd bought a house, but the GFC was coming. And my wife was pregnant, and I did have a mortgage, and I thought that mortgage was big, right? Compared to now, like it's nothing. And I thought, oh, okay. And one of my mates who'd just done an exit, his business partner just said, oh, why don't you do what we got on the phone? Why don't you do what we did? And I said, okay, cool. So I went and met the chairman. I told him what I was doing. He said, what do you want? And I told him, and that was it. It was done. It was all on the back of an envelope.
Wow.
And then it was just the DD bullshit.
Yeah. And
when I say bullshit, it just goes on and on and on, and very uncomfortable opening your kimono.
Yeah. And I want to know, because that's the business you ended up buying back.
Yeah.
Right? So what went wrong there? Like, what was that post-integration?
I'll tell you what went wrong. And this is like, I'm helping with about 3 different mergers and acquisitions at the moment. The culture, timing. Well, if you go back to what my business plan was, stick it to tradition, I got involved with tradition. So it was like, putting a pirate in a nunnery. And I think that's what it was. I lost my that building feeling. That was probably it. And it was at a time of consolidation across the group. So I got a great option. So I went with it.
Yeah. So talking about building, you found and co-found 10 businesses.
Yes. And some of those were turds, like, which is good, to the struggle that you talked about. And then some of them, like some of them I've been founding partner of, that have done extraordinarily well, particularly an NGO called Global Citizen. Like that's now, I think they've redeployed about $50 billion US to end extreme poverty. Like that, the gentleman that co-founded that, Wei So, Simon Moss, Mick Sheldrick, and Hugh Evans, they are extraordinary people, and they just talk about purpose and on a mission, and passion. And it's been a long journey for them, but yes, I have had the honor to be a part of some good things.
So building multiple business, right? Like what is there any commonality that you see that when you or we just saw multiple opportunities? And then you saw...
So some of them were... so when the GFC hit, I re-engineered one of my businesses and created a new one. So, you have Qantas and Jetstar. I was the Qantas. I just created Jetstar, and that ended up making more money than the Qantas did through that period of time.
Yeah.
So that was one. Another one was what I would call a competitive business where... we were working with Coca-Cola, and let's say Pepsi came to want to work with us, so we had to have 2 different businesses. And then, the secondary business ended up being more profitable and less of a headache than the bigger one did. And then there was, some failures along the line. I created a fresh food market, securing vegetables from farmers that weren't able to sell to the big supermarket chain, so we'd take their fresh food and try and filter it back through the systems, through real life markets, and then an e-commerce business that was like a big tanker. Forgot about that. And there's a few others like that as well.
I guess every time you do things, some you learn something new, right?
Totally. You sell you pitch polka dots and you sell pinstripes.
I like that one.
Yeah, it's true.
And you've had exposure from serving on boards, advisory. You've done a lot of mentoring as well.
Yep.
I want to know, what do you think is the most valuable thing that most founders or business leaders leave on the table?
I think I only say this from my own experience. Like, I wish in my 30s, whilst I was ambitious, I wasn't as curious. I think curiosity is a key value in life. If you still want to be in business when you're 90, be curious. So, get good advisors, always be a learner, always be willing to be coached, listen. And I'm guilty of doing this. Whereas now I get messages from people all the time. I listen to everyone. I'm a, sponge. So I think what some of them leave on the table is maybe not having your principles, like maybe not understanding your purpose. Maybe like some people, well, a lot of people I've dealt with, they've started these businesses and they might be generating 2 million or 4 million, or in some cases 50 million, and they don't actually have a purpose to themselves. Why am I doing this? So I'm running this $50 million a year business, but why? And money only means something to a certain extent. Like, what's my commitment to myself and my health and so on. So, I would say it's the curiosity is the biggest thing.
So you talked about purpose a lot, right? So I know we all know how important to have a purpose when you're doing things. But how do you manage or maintain purpose and then the growth and expectations?
Well, your team will work much harder for you if you've got a clear purpose in your business that's going to, help a segment or a community. Your team's going to be driven by that. So I think being clear on that and being mission-led and making sure, I believe a CEO's job, 60% of their job should be ensuring that the purpose, mission, and values and goals of the business are reflected in the behaviors and the products and the systems and the processes and the relationships of the organization. And so being super clear on that. But, you can be... so Stephen Marks, who we spoke about before, he wants to create the best restaurants in the world, right? That's his thing. And when you meet him, it's super clear. Yeah. And when you work for him, it's super clear. I bumped into his, one of his chiefs at Christmas. She walked in. I felt him come through her. Like he's a New Yorker, she's an Australian, but the energy is there. So I think that mobilizes people is and when the numbers tank, right, which they will do in every business, right, there's no straight lines in business. If you've got a great purpose that's bigger than your ego, that's bigger than your identity, then the wind of the economic changes or the product changes or community changes or consumer changes won't bother you because you're still driving forward. Does that answer the question? Yeah, I think it's super, super important.
So in a way, your purpose need to communicate through to your team.
Yeah.
From top to bottom, and also very important that create that culture, the purpose-driven culture.
Yeah.
So we are all in the sync, right? All together to achieve that purpose.
Yeah, and I think where I went wrong in the past and where I probably won't go wrong in the future is making sure everyone's on board. So the purpose I have is really, I want to make a difference to people. Yeah. And my platform is entrepreneurialism, because I think that's going to help the world. Mm-hmm. So making sure everybody is on board with that, and then making sure that they're rewarded appropriately for that. Because if you're doing really well, then make sure your staff are doing really well, and give them some form of equity in the business, because then they're tipping up to their business, not your business. Yeah. So I think that's a super important thing too, and people are cluing into that more and more.
And I want to, as someone who's like quite early in their career, I want to understand if you have any frameworks or advice for trying to really find that purpose, because I feel like I'm still working things out.
Well, I have a training module, not that I'm a training person, but I actually have there's four ways to tell everyone really quickly. So it could be, I see an injustice in the world. So that is global citizens. So Hugh Evans saw at 16 as a, blessed, Australian male that he had won the genetic lottery, but he was going to go off and end extreme poverty. Another one is, trauma driven. So, something happened to me and I'm going to create a sanctuary or a healing or a process to benefit other people. Another one is that, hey, I'm really good at this. I think I'm going to change, have a go at making it different, the industry, which is what I did with the Conscience Organization and all the marketing production businesses. And another one is I've got a scratch to itch. I just have a scratch. I think this is something I see a problem I want to solve in the world, which, I know that we talked about earlier. So I think they're your four pathways.
Yeah, I think that's a super valuable framework.
Yeah.
And I was reading one of your speeches from, I think it was South by Southwest.
Yeah.
And in that you're quoted saying, "I'm pretty sure I effed everything up at least 3 times before I changed it."
Yeah.
And I want to know, for you, what do you think, or how valuable do you think is failure?
It's everything. Like old mate Dyson, I was watching this great, and I posted on the We Are Compadres Instagram if you want to go have a look at it. He was doing an interview, and he said, I learned the most amazing things from screwing up, 5,173 times. Like, failure was fascinating to him because he picked it apart, and now it's a $7 billion business. He only learnt from his failure. And when, this is just me being humble, but people used to walk into my office and they go, "God, Clive, you're so brave, you're so successful." And I'm like, no, I'm not. I just survived 1,000 failures for 1 win. So it's where the nuggets are.
Yeah. So talking about failure, right? So I know we talked about you need to have failures to learn and grow, right? But that doesn't mean you do things to fail, right? You always trying to. It's about taking the risk, not like because we know in our world most people they overanalyze, right, and spend a lot of time thinking, what could go wrong, right? And as you know, some of us we just wanna get the
Hell on with it.
Yeah, head on with it. We want to work, right? We want to make sure that actually going to win. But if we fail, that's not going to bother us. So that's the sort of failure we are talking about, right?
Yeah. Well, calculated risk. So we're wired for progress.
Yeah.
Right. So humans are wired for progress. It's deep. Yeah. It's deep in our. Humans want to grow, although ironically they don't like change, which is weird. Yeah. Trees grow, I think, at 1% a year, but humanity, if you look at our speed of growth, it's obviously stepped up a notch recently. So in growth, it would be in business. Is it calculated? Some people put it into a department. They call it the innovation department. Some people have risk assessment. Yeah. Entrepreneurs have no assessment. I just get the hell, Nike says it, just do it. Because you will work out, like, through persistence, we will work everything out. Like you see it all the time. I mean, I have an inspiring Instagram feed, and it's that one, the difference between someone who made it and someone who didn't is the person who just went that extra step, i.e. they persisted through the failure. The market speaks as well. Come up with an idea. Okay, I'm going to put it out in the market. If somebody bites on the hook, the bait, if you like, there's a signal that you're probably onto something. And then, I was listening this morning that Instagram started as something called Bourbon, and then it was about sharing pictures of where you were with your mates, and obviously now it's something completely different. So,
Yeah, so one of the growth dilemmas or corporate dilemmas, whatever you call it, I have, right? So, I mean, as founders, we like to create very entrepreneurial way of doing things. That means we want to get things moving. We want to, you use whatever the resources available rather than, waiting for, a big team to do it. Whatever the resources available, we want to get things moving, right? But as the business grow, you need to hire different skill sets. So you have people coming from a very large organizations. They know how to follow their process and procedures, very good structured thinkers. And we are not the structured thinkers, right?
Yes.
And then when the growth come to that, like, you need their help, but then you see your organization entrepreneurial thing moving away, right? So everything needs to have a lot of red tapes to get anything done, right? And you can see a lot of waste happening as well. Time waste, money waste, we don't do that, right? Like as an entrepreneur, like a 0 to 1 creators, right?
Yes.
And how do you, like, as the growth happening, what's your thought? Like, how do you kind of balance and bring everyone together? I mean, that's my biggest dilemma right now. Create that entrepreneurial organization that we understand each other. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
I do. And we did speak about this. And so I think that you sound to me like a very creative, driven person who is great at 0 to 1. And the question you're asking me is, how do I take entrepreneurial thinking into 1 to 5 or 7 or whatever it is on the growth scale? I think, it's the Kenny Rogers song, you've got to know when to roll them, know when to hold them, know when to walk away. And so that's how do you have in the purpose of the business and the mission and values, values is probably what you're talking about, that entrepreneurial innovation piece. So I think old mate from the video, I was just listening to something this morning by Simon Squibb, actually, it's in his book. And he talks about like they were on the brink of, falling apart, and he wanted to keep that, I call it that naked feeling, when the water goes out, you see who's standing naked, right? He wanted to keep that naked feeling in the business. So how do you keep that hunger, and we are poor, right? So there's another thing, again, I quote Simon Squibb, because he puts it so well, like when you're starting a business, don't act rich. If you get a bunch of money, you'll probably waste it. But if you act poor, and how do you keeping that spirit of innovation? Sometimes we need to spend money, but we should always spend money back into the business. I think when it gets into the false growth, that's where I don't understand that in business. Like I've never had investment in a business to grow it. I've always come up with the idea, find the client, there's the business. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And then what it becomes, who knows? Yeah. So I think for you, what it sounds like is how do you frame entrepreneurialism, or the other great word is curiosity.
And the founder's mentality.
But, 60% of businesses fail. I mean, this is probably old data, but this is the one I remember. 60% of businesses fail without the founder. No one closes a deal like a founder. Yeah. No one can hunt like a founder. Yeah. It's just a different, because it's you've got 2 children and now obviously a third with your son-in-law, but your business is your other child.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't understand that that's probably what a business is, and unfortunately, a good business person understands that this is the thing, the other nucleus that I've created. And hopefully it has a great purpose at solving a problem that's bigger than you, that's more than cash, that makes a positive dent on society and our future generations. And that's why it goes back to that purpose thing, Jam, is that if your purpose in your business, let's say we spoke about Harris Farm, right? Fresh food in abundance, right? That's what that feel. When I first met Luke, I said, you know what you feel like to me? Abundance and freshness. He goes, that's exactly right. And I said, so if your mission as a supermarket multi-chain business like that is fresh food in abundance for Australian families, who wouldn't want to work on that, right? Yeah. Right. So it's just, how do you filter down? Like one of your business is logistics, right? Yeah. So how do we get people products what they want as quick as they can get it in the most sustainable fashion that we know in Australia? Yeah. How can we do that as a business? Who doesn't want to be a part of that purpose? Yeah. So it's reframing your existing business and finding it probably what the purpose is, because a lot of us, we're just coming into this generation that wants so much more from life.
Yeah. That's really good advice.
Hopefully. I don't know. I'm making it up.
No, that's good. That's what we do.
Yeah.
And in 2018, you left all of the hustle and bustle of the founder mindset, growing businesses. Yeah. You left that all behind
Mm.
moved to the country
Mm.
for a reset.
Yeah.
And I want to know, first of all, what triggered it? Let's start there. What triggered that change?
I had been doing what I'd been doing for a long time. I was burnt out. I had a problem with my central nervous system. Like, I think I was having a nervous breakdown. I was unhealthy. Like, I was 109 kilos. I was drinking and eating too much. I wasn't living my optimal life. So part of it was just, I think I had a physical and mental health challenge, and I just couldn't be bothered. And I remember I didn't want to hire more people. I didn't want to pitch more. I didn't really want to go to the office. Like, the signals were there that I had lost my purpose and my reason, and my passion for what it was. And people like going, why don't you just keep it going and then sell it again? I'm like, mate, I can't be bothered, and I had enough money or whatever it was, and in fact, moving to the country is costs about 1/3 that it does living here in Sydney. And my children and I, we were motorbike riding on weekends. We're going away to friends' houses and riding horses and stuff. So I was getting joy from being in creation. And so it was quite logical. A lot of people like saying, Clive, you're so brave. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just like logical. And I didn't think I'd come back because I am from the country, and I think we're all from the country, actually. And I found peace. I just found peace, and so on my 50th birthday, I made a commitment to myself that I would not have anything left in the city anymore, and I had everything arrived the day before. Wow. And then I didn't look back, and then, as we talked about before, that changed. Here we are.
Yeah. And I want to know, during that time, during that reset, what do you think it is about that experience that was so calming, enabled reflection, and like reset you on a personal level?
Who here listening to this podcast, I imagine everyone are business owners or want to be business owners or entrepreneurs or just, curious people. Who here doesn't go away on the weekend and go for a walk in the bush and go, oh my God, that felt amazing. That I felt amazing is your natural existence. That's actually how you should function on a day-to-day basis. All this that we've created, capitalism, etc., is made up stuff, right? It's not real. Whereas being in the country and in nature and in creation, that's real. That's normal. We're not meant to start companies or live in cities and live in apartments or anything like that. So, I was just doing what was actually normal and natural, but I also have an entrepreneurial spirit. So, and even when I was up there, I was doing spreadsheets on becoming a Wagyu beef farmer and all stuff. So my curiosity didn't stop, but I felt myself healing. Like, I suffered a lot of childhood trauma, so I felt it on a cellular level. I was riding my bike and running and riding horses and then diving in this amazing creek called Ladies Well in the Barrington Tops, which we spoke about earlier. And when you dive into the ocean, that feeling that most of Australians get anyway, or in this case, water fresh out of a mountain side, you feel something cellular. And when you do that enough, something changes in your body. And so that experience recoiled my arrow. Like, I'm at this point now, slowly letting go of the arrow taking off. So we'll see where I am in 5 years.
I'm fascinated by that reflection that you had of the fact that, yes, as humans, this is where we're designed to be, like out in the country, in nature. But then the fact that you got roped back into the city life. And I want to know what that transition was like.
Well, it was the hardest thing I've done in my life was come back to the city. Because I dropped everything, and all patterns, or most patterns, had been dropped. Mind patterns, my comprehension of society has changed. Whatever. I'm not a hippie, by the way, but I just have a different view on things now, like really different. So I've gone through it. It was the hardest thing. I remember we moved back. We were living not far from here. And I was waking up sweating in fear. I had an investment that was going backwards at the time. Like, it was just the worst timing. So, that was super difficult. but now what I know is myself more. Like I think I discovered more about myself, which is part of life's journey for all of us. And I know that I exercise every day. I go to the country still. I have my horse. I spent, the summer or a bit of the summer mustering cows and doing the things that I truly love. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, how important to say no to things?
No. Well, no is a double-edged sword, right? So when life, the universe, business, or somebody says no to you,
Yeah.
it's because there's a better yes coming, right?
Okay.
There's one that's coming. Like when you're chasing that opportunity, you chase, but chasing means it's not really an opportunity, I guess. But so the ability to say no, like I have that amazing ability now. So mine's principles driven. So if I'm not feeling something, I'll go for a run or go to the gym or horse ride or whatever it is. But then as an entrepreneur, you have to have a profoundly great relationship to the word no, because through the passage of time, a no becomes a yes. In a different format, though, usually.
Yeah, is it a difficult thing for an entrepreneur? Because I find it really difficult because I see opportunities, right? That's the reason I ask.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes you see opportunities, and also people come to you with a lot of ideas because they know he's a risk taker. He will be like to get involved in their ideas.
Okay. Can I answer your question?
Sure.
All right. So I think for you, you need a thesis,
Yep.
which is what my interest is,
Yep.
and that will be connected to your purpose.
Yep.
So I'm working with this angel investor. She runs a family office. She's 26. She's brilliant, and she's clear at 26. Well, no, I'm clear for her at 26. She's just probably getting there. That hers is around wellness because she had some health challenges.
Yep.
So bring me as many ideas as you can around wellness. But if you want me to go and start a, microphone company or something, not interested. So it's about, does this fit into my purpose and what I want to spend the rest of my life making a dent on, as positive dent on.
So as long as aligned to your purpose, is that what you mean?
Well, a lot of private equity firms and VCs and whatever, they'll have a specialization and a thesis for investment, but where they want to sit, sustainable energy is yours, Dylan. So,
so the challenge when you have a broader purpose, right? So my purpose in life, bring everyone together to create a positive impact for everyone.
Yep.
So everything that what I try to do is bringing everyone, right? So it's not like me doing stuff. When I do stuff, I want to make sure it's not just me winning. I want to bring others together.
Beautiful.
And we create something magical for everyone, right?
Yep.
So that's really my purpose.
That's big.
It's a very big and very broad, right?
Yes.
So the challenge now, every time I come up with ideas, yes, I am aligned to my purpose, but because it's a very broader purpose, I feel like I have to do this.
Yeah.
And then, you have very limited time, right?
Commit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we probably need a longer podcast to answer that. But it sounds like to me, you're learning what your yeses are and what your nos are. This is not one to necessarily follow, but there's a guy who's incredible who actually sold his business to Jeff Bezos and worked with him for a number of years. I sit on an advisory board with him in London. And he said, is it going to be fun? Am I going to make a lot of money?
Yeah.
And am I going to have a positive impact?
Mm-hmm.
That's his three criteria before he gets involved with anything. I'm not saying that's right, but that's just one that I've heard. But for you, I think you can still have a broad intention and a broad purpose, but maybe there's some work to be done just to hone it in, saying, look, this is maybe it's the category, the sector, or the environment,
more priorities,
or the geography. Like using PE is not necessarily the greatest example, but like some are regionalized.
Yeah.
I've got another gentleman who's in the billion sphere, he won't touch anything unless it's global.
Yeah. Yeah.
He says,
Yeah,
I don't
makes
want to,
sense.
don't bring me anything unless it's
So
global.
there's some conditions.
Or it can be global.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, like it sounds to me just like a, honing in, because I'm the same, I mean, I started a fresh food business. What the hell am I doing? Starting a fresh food, whereas our mate Luke would have been fairly qualified to do that. So yeah, the wisdom of our scars.
Yeah.
And speaking of exciting new ventures, I want to
Yep.
go to Compadres.
Yep.
Can you give our listeners just the pitch of it? What is your philosophy? What are you trying to do there?
Sure. Well, my
So
my
that-
philosophy is
Other
is-
question.
yeah,
What's this all about, right?
create new futures. Well, I think that even what I've found is that entrepreneurs who run businesses get to a point of, why the hell am I doing this? And quite often they just need a reframing. So I believe if the founder is right, the business will thrive. So the way I work is I work one-to-one with the founder, understanding where they're at, where their mindset is at. Like, I don't call myself a business coach or anything like that, but I'm more of an entrepreneurial relator, empath.
Yeah.
And then we get on to working on the business. So I have 6 principles in business. That's all obviously plugged into AI and measured, etc., and optimized. So my mission with Compadres is to help millions of entrepreneurs realize their potential, lead rewarding qualities of life, and have a positive impact on the planet. So making sure the purpose in their business is planetary aligned, but also that they are living from good principles and the business is thriving. Because, the key thing about a business is that the bottleneck is always at the top. And if you want to know why your business sucks, look in the mirror. So primarily, it's a business advisory service that's more holistic and unique. I work with entrepreneurs in pretty much most continents. So a lot of people in London, Europe. I work with an amazing founder of Women in Tech, which is 250,000 women around the world, empowering other women. I work with people in New York, Singapore, Middle East, and a few here in Australia. But they're all businesses in different scales. So I think my target is, as in my customer profile is usually anything from 500 grand to 100 million a year.
Do you see anything common, regardless of the size of this business, that these leaders require some guidance?
Yeah, everyone's got problems to solve.
So do you think they are different, or there are?
No, they're all the same. Like I say to them all the time, I say to them, guess what?
Yeah.
The problem you're experiencing, Jam, is the same as all entrepreneurs, no matter what your stage of growth at. I think from 0 to 1 is different. To 1 to 7 or 10, definitely. But also there's an age thing as well. Like I think that people maybe 20s and 30s are very different to 40s and 50s. But my key target, if you like, who I work with one-to-one as a board member, etc., is that they are businesses that are really ready for growth. They want to grow, they just don't know how. They got a bunch of problems, and I'll help them solve them.
Speaking, like, we've spoken a lot about business, but going back to your kind of success triangle, that's actually kind of on the bottom. So I want to go to what are the practices that you do every day to kind of curate and grow your spiritual, physical, and emotional health?
Easy. So this is not my idea, but I've heard it framed different ways. But all of us have a golden hour, right? Which is when you wake up from a dream state. So don't pick up your phone. Guilty. Don't know what's going on in the rest of the world. But that's win the day is that. Let me give it to you a different way. If I gave you more time and more money, I reckon in 6 to 12 months, you'd come back and ask for more time and more money, right? So time and money is not the answer to winning life. It's about how you win the day. So setting up your day, at 6 a.m., I do the same thing every day. I wake up, I as I said, I'm a religious man. I thank God. I thank for all my blessings. I read a variety of different prayers. I say prayers, I read prayers, or whatever it is, and then there's coffee, homemade muesli, almond milk, which we talked about before, and fresh berries from Harris Farm. And so I'm prepared. I'm prepared for the day from 6 a.m. That's my daily practice on how I get on top of the day. Doesn't happen perfectly every day. I used to get up and ride 50 kilometers on my bike. I don't do that anymore. So it's that self-care in the some
like
days.
me time, right? So
Yeah.
with you.
And then what usually precedes that is your goal now, where you're the most productive and uninterrupted. And I, when I was, the creative director of the Comedy Channel, I would get into that building before anyone else did every day. The number one real estate agent in Australia, who I'm dealing with at the moment, a guy called Alexander Phillips, he is in the office every day, like before anyone else is, every day. He got off a plane on Sunday night at 11, slept for 3 hours. He called me at 7 o'clock on Monday morning. He said, I've slept for 3 hours. How you going? Right. So that's his golden hour.
Yeah.
Get ahead of the world. I don't understand people who sleep in. God bless you. It's like amazing.
I know. Yeah.
I've got some teenagers that do it, but they're going through, obviously some growth.
Yeah. So you advise many people, but
Yes.
someone like Dylan trying to crack into entrepreneurship, like to business world, 0 to 1, what's the best advice you can give it to him?
Well, you've already said it. Just get on with it. Find that, like I have the framework for purpose.
Yeah.
And it's different for everyone else. I do believe we and I want to say this more and more to everyone around the world, is we all have a purpose. Don't believe that you don't. It's like your fingerprint, right? It's usually it's something that stirs you up from one of those 4 categories that I talked about, and pursue it and listen to the market. And be persistent. And there's zillions of books, and then find some mentors and some people that you admire, and be curious.
Have you had any mentors in your
Yeah. And I still do. Like, I'm surrounded by brilliant human beings. Like, one of the my principles is my relationships with brilliant people. There's no one I know that doesn't inspire me. That's in my circle. No one.
Yeah.
No.
I think that's super important.
Yeah, it is. Like, and if you're, whether you're a teenager, it doesn't, like, age means nothing. Does this person understand my dreams? Do they make me feel elevated after being in their presence? Are they encouraging my dreams? Are they happy for me to achieve things? If they're not your people. Cut them, move on.
Yeah. And I want to do a bit of a thought exercise.
Yeah, okay.
I want you to fast forward to your own funeral.
Whoa.
What would you like someone to say at your eulogy?
He made a positive difference, and he squeezed every last drop.
Yeah, that's super powerful. I think that perfectly sums up a lot of our conversation today.
Thank you.
But before we wrap up,
Yeah.
looking back on your journey, and given that your definition of success was largely around, having spiritual, physical, emotional health, and then underneath that a strong family and community,
Yeah.
and then underneath that business, do you feel successful?
Depends on what time of day. I'm full of fear and doubt and optimism and positivity. So if I look back on where I came from to where I am, I'm phenomenally successful, because most people that had my childhood don't live. So in that aspect, I'm successful, but I also feel like my life's work of making a positive impact on, like you, is only just beginning. And I'm so, that's the bit that, like I said, I'm the arrow ready to launch. So, the better question is, what will be in 5 years? and I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But it will be, like I said, when I was 16, it will be, successful.
Yeah. Well, we look forward to following along your journey and seeing where you end up in 5 years. But before we wrap up,
Yes.
I've been trying to jot down what I think are the core traits which you embody, which have led to your success. And I'd like to share them with you. The first one, I think, is your drive and maybe tenacity, let's call it. I love the quote that you said about entrepreneurs work 24 hours to avoid the 9 to 5. And I think, you embody that. You so hungry throughout your entire journey, looking for opportunities and just going at it, grabbing the bull by both horns and just getting after it. And I think that's, it's so powerful. The next one is adaptability. And you kind of explained it across all your businesses, how you had to pivot things, how you had to change to adapt to the conditions. And, whether it was doing the Qantas versus Jetstar model, all of those things, you adapted to the situation that you got put in. And I think that's a real testament to you, because it's such a hard thing to do. You've worked so hard to get something to where it is, then to have to pivot it all and basically start again. And I think that's a really powerful trait to have. The next one is the ability to learn from everywhere. And I think that also comes from a little bit of humility to say, I don't know it all. And, I can learn from any different source, whether it's, someone you're mentoring. You spoke about so many different authors and books, Simon Squibb, like all of these entrepreneurs who have been there, done that before. Or, someone that you're mentoring, someone who technically might have less experience than you, but that you can learn something valuable from those conversations as well. And the last one I'd leave is you have a very strong risk appetite. And I think, in the ventures that you did, you took that leap of faith. And, as you and Jan were mentioning, you didn't think too much, didn't overanalyze. You just got in there and got things done.
Thank you.
And also what I've noticed this conversation, you're a really authentic person, and you're happy to share your vulnerabilities, which is very rare these days. Sometimes, people, they're trying to be, just to show them what they're good at, like, how powerful they are, not being open.
Well, they're living from their identity. Yeah. And when you live from your identity, you're not telling the truth, because, someone will crack your identity open like a, broken sculpture on a cement floor. It's going to happen, right? Yeah. Your business is going to fail. Your marriage is going to fail. Something will fail in your identity, in your ego. It happens to all of us.
You're expending so much energy trying to be something else.
Yeah. And then if you're coming from your identity, you're also not living your purpose. And if you're not living your purpose, you'll just blow over in the wind ultimately at some point.
And when you're vulnerable, you connect with other people as well. I'm sure that's one reason that I thought you're such a great guy that we need to have this conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, likewise, I feel the same. And I think, what's going to happen for you is that, I'm pointing at you, Dylan, is that the onboarding of the 91st episode and all that follow is that, probably maybe by the 100 mark, it's all going to make sense to you, and it'll be super clear to you what's next. And it could actually be this, like, I mean, to be young and connected to, people who are fountains of, failure and therefore wisdom, will make you, because when you go into business, what's going to happen is, like, I remember episode 83. Like it's brilliant, and you're not watching it on YouTube or listening to it on Spotify. You're actually talking to you're feeling people's energy. So, this is probably better than or equal to Stanford.
Oh, 100%, right?
Yeah.
What we learned, like, Harvard, it's actually, I've gone through the same journey doing this. This is
Really?
91st episode. I mean, it's all about case studies, right?
Yeah.
What we're doing is case studies, right?
Yeah.
So, Clive, it's a fascinating conversation. Thank you so much. I know we could
talk for hours.
Hours more.
And Clive, before we go, if people want to learn more about you or the businesses you're involved in, where's the best place for them to find out?
wearecompadres.com, or We Are Compadres on Instagram, or contact me on LinkedIn. Like, I'm 24/7 kind of guy.
That's it. Clive, thank you so much.
Thank
And
you, everyone. Thank
for
you.
our
Thank
listeners, if you've taken something from away from today's episode, it would mean the world if you can like and subscribe. Helps us to get to more and more ears. And you can see all of our episodes over on our website, thequestforsuccesspodcast.com. And with that, we'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thanks for listening.